Hello, good evening, welcome. This is our final raspberry jam, well, our jam. It's our final jam of 2020. We will be running more jams in 2021, but this is the last one we're running this year. It's Monday the 7th of December, and the theme this evening is Winter Wonderland. So you're probably wondering, what is it that people are going to be talking about tonight? Well, you can see we've got a schedule. We've had lots of people who have volunteered and offered to give presentations and talks this evening. Each person is given 10 minutes, but we ask them to present for about 5 minutes. Sometimes is it just a chance for people to answer one or two questions. People tend to use the chat quite a lot. So in a moment, when Jay does his presentation, you could type in some questions, and it might be that Jay answers them later on when they're in the chat. Now, a couple of other things to bear in mind, which is at 8:30 or a little bit before, if we get there, we will run something we call our jam jar. They are breakout rooms, and we'll be suggesting that you might want to go to a certain room. And in those rooms, you can turn on your microphone, your headphones, your camera, and it's just kind of, imagine you're sat at a table and you can talk to people. So that's later on. Occasionally, a couple of things happen, like somebody's not quite ready or we have a technical problem. So we sometimes juggle the talks around a little bit, and we'll see how that goes. So one more thing just before we start. Thank you very much, everybody who's using the chat. That's great. But I realize some people are watching on a tiny screen, and it's not so easy to type things in when you're on one of those screens. Now, our first talk of this evening, we have Jay. And Jay, in a moment, I'm just going to make Jay a presenter so that he can then share his screen. Now, we did a test before, and we found it didn't work quite as well as we wanted it to do. So just a second while I sort that out. So now, Jay, you have now been given the option to present. So if you click on that button, I will then turn off my camera, and I will go and mute in a moment. So when you're ready, Jay, you can start, okay? But you're waiting to share the screen. And it's just starting. It's just taking a few moments. So this evening, Jay is going to be presenting a talk about making an advent calendar. And we did a little practice before in the rehearsal. And I think the internet speed might not be quite as good as we'd like because it hasn't loaded yet on the screen. And we saw, from what I remember seeing on the right-hand side a Christmas tree with lots of numbers on it. And it still seems to be taking a while to load up your screen share, Jay. So, Jay, do you want to start talking while we're waiting to see?
Okay, so this is a calendar that I decided to take since it was close to Christmas, and I've made it in Scratch, as you can see here. How I made it was I went onto the back first, and then I got a Christmas scene, and then put it into the stage. Then I went online, and then I got a Alan, can you see it? This.
I can see your screen share now, but
Okay.
your audio quality isn't great.
Okay. So basically, I went online to Google, and then I found a Christmas tree advent calendar, and then I didn't paste it in Scratch, which is over there. And I carefully, by one, cut out from the advent calendar, and then I made it into
Jay,
message.
Just try turning your camera off for a moment and it might improve your audio quality.
Okay.
So we can still see your camera. If you switch it off on the blue button with the video camera, that's it. So, okay, let's carry on.
So then what this is the Christmas tree. So I cut out each individual box using the crop button, and then I made them sprites. You can see here. Then I placed them individually on the Christmas advent calendar. So then I coded it so when this sprite is clicked, just like when you open one in real life, then it broadcasts a message over to another one, and then when it receives that message, then it will show just like this message is a Christian biblical message because of Christmas. So how it works is if I press it plays music, and it plays music because I had put in a MP3 file from Google of Joy to the World, which is another Christmas song. So when you that, and then number one, a message like this, and then ones. Christmas pictures have a message will pop up. So there's also a locking device where you press on say 9 then it will and it won't play or show any music or pictures because it's not the 9th yet and this month here. So if the date equals the 9th of December, then it shows the 7th. But if I were to open another 7, then it would work since it's the 7th today. There's also some activities in things there, which isn't to a normal chocolate advent calendar. But that's me. Thank you for letting me present Alan today. But that's all.
Thank you. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take back the presenter role for now. And Spencer, if you want to start getting yours ready. Jay, before you disappear, I just wanted to say a couple of things. It was a real shame. As you were presenting, the audio quality, it suffered. And we think it's because you were doing a screen share and trying to share audio at the same time. But you've told us that you're going to be getting a faster internet connection in the future, so hopefully things will improve that way.
Yeah.
What I really liked was I think I've seen people do something similar to what you've done, but not quite as good, because I've actually seen other people create calendars with days and you click on them and that's, but there was nothing to stop people from, like, if they open day 1 to close it again, and then maybe on day 2 think, oh, I'm going to open day 21. But what I really liked about yours was how you've programmatically designed it to prevent people from opening things early on. And it got me thinking, I wonder if there's other things you could do, like if it could take into account like the person's name, and use that in part of that. So that was a lovely project, and it could serve as a countdown to lots of things as well, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Somebody said the other day that they open their advent calendar the other way around. They start with 24 and then go 23 and then 22, and they use it as a countdown calendar. And lots of people say, no, that's wrong. You can't do it that way. You always start with 1, 2, 3. But maybe that's something you could give people a choice at the beginning, how many days are left rather than how many days have passed. So thank you very much, Jay. We have Spencer, who is going to be presenting next, and I'm waiting for Spencer to turn on his camera. I can hear Spencer.
Ho, 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 Alan. Hello. Hello. Right, I'm going to press start sharing.
And
hopefully you can see me from the foggy Midlands.
It's just coming through now.
Excellent. So I'm not showing any presentation. So if you want to press the little green minus button to minimize Alan's timetable, that would be really cool, because you want to see my video. Yeah.
And we're just waiting on your video to load up. It's showing a sort of progress. So we can just see it now. So Spencer's saying you could click on, if you look at the main screen, you could click on, there's a minus button at the top right that will reduce that. Or alternatively, there's an expand button in the top right of Spencer's video. And if you click on that, it will make Spencer full screen. So that's what we recommend you do. And I'm going to turn mine off. So
yeah, you definitely want me full screen. So hi, I'm Spencer from Birmingham. I think lots of you have seen me at jams before. I've been at lots of Alan's jams. Jay, I loved your presentation. Really liked your advent calendar. Thought that was really cool, actually. So thank you for showing that. So I wanted to make something a couple of years ago that was interactive and could help out the festive season. And I've loved snow globes since I was a little kid. So I thought, okay, I want to make myself an interactive, Twitter-enabled snow globe. Now, I'm just going to change cameras, and hopefully you should see up on the screen in a second, when my new camera comes, a camera pointing at my Raspberry Pi-powered Twitter-enabled snow globe. And it's really simple. I've got 2 Pi Morelli hats in it. The first one is a unicorn hat, which is making my snow globe glow. And the second one is the automation hat, which is making the little LED strands of LEDs flash behind it. And I've written a little program that monitors Twitter, and it looks for my username @makercupboard, and it looks for 3 specific words that will come up in my tweets. And those words are snow, party, or Christmas with a small c. So it monitors it every few seconds. And if you were to type a message on Twitter and tag me with @makercupboard and use the word snow, the lights would turn white in about 30 seconds. If you did the word party, the lights would change again, and Christmas as well. Now, the beauty is it monitors it over in real time, and it stacks up into a queue. So if you did lots of messages for me, I'd then get lots of lighting effects over the next. Oh, someone's just done snow. I see it's gone white. Someone's gone snow. You can't quite see it quite so well from the camera, but the bottom of the snow globe has gone bright white. And so it also accepts party and Christmas with a small c. Thanks, Josh. That is so cool. So it's a very simple Twitter API. It looks for my name. It looks for keywords. It takes those keywords and pops it into a list. Every 30 seconds, it reads back through the list. It reads the next keyword. And if it sees the word snow, it does 1 set of lights. If it sees the word party, it does another set of lights. And if it sees the word Christmas, it does another set. Because it's running off a Raspberry Pi Zero, it's super low power. It just sits there all the time. And with the automation hat on there, you could actually connect more strands of lights. Oh, someone has done Christmas, because it's now just gone golden. I don't know if you can see that. Probably looks the same as the other one. It's just gone a nice golden yellow color, which is, it looks amazing here, but you're not quite getting it on the webcam. Oh, yeah. Audio's good. Thank you. Okay, all great. Yeah, so this was a lovely little project that just sits on my desk throughout the kind of festive season over Christmas. And when people tag me, people put messages, I just see a nice little set of lights on my desk. Total build cost, well, I 3D printed the house and the base. The snow globe was about £10, less than that. The LEDs were really cheap. And oh, can people not hear me? Michael, you can hear
we
me.
can hear you fine.
Oh,
yeah.
fantastic! Just reading the chat. That was all. Sorry. Oh, someone has. Yep, it's just gone back to its normal default, so it's just flashing away merrily in there. So if somebody tags me and does party, it should get one final last splash of lights before we finish. I will put the code on GitHub from GitHub later, but I just noticed when I went into GitHub earlier, where it tracks the changes on GitHub, I very cleverly took all the API information out from my token for Twitter, and I didn't realize obviously that GitHub tracks all your changes, so it's got the previous version of it with all the not the passwords but the API tokens. So I needed to change that very quickly. And I think, Alan, that's enough festive merriment from me. Anyone's got any questions or anything like to just throw in there?
So, any questions for Spencer?
I'm watching the chat as well.
Yeah. And Spencer, are you going to join us for the jam jar later?
Unfortunately, I am going back to do lots and lots of marking, unfortunately.
Okay. You're going to point something out just then.
Yeah. Nick just said, how easy is it to set up Twitter? The Twitter API is really easy, and the Python documentation is super simple online. There's plenty of documentation. Yes, Paul, you're absolutely right. I should have a secrets file. I was a bit silly in putting it onto the original Python code, but I learned that. Are they linked to cheer lights? No, they're not, but they could be. That'd be very simple to add that on. And it keeps changing colour. It's now flashing multicolored. So somebody's just done party, which is cool. And yes, it's the Tweepy Python library. But what I'll do is, if I don't get back in time, I'll send Alan a link to the GitHub stuff once I've edited it, and perhaps you could share that somewhere at some point, or head over to the makercupboard.space, and I'll put a latest project on there. Cool. Okay. Thank you. Cheers.
That's lovely. Thank you very much. So we had a jam back in October. Oh, by the way, I've just noticed. So I've got webcam footage now on full screen. So I'm going to go and click that button to make it a little bit smaller. Nope, it's gone even larger again. So I need to, in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a button that says Restore Presentation. So it looks a little bit like a screen on a tripod. So I clicked on that, and now I can see the schedule for this evening and then some video across the top. Now, so we've had two presentations down. The theme this evening is Winter Wonderland, and we have scheduled next. We might have to adjust our schedule, well, we'll see, because we're due to have at 7:25, a presentation from Emily and Ellie, and they're just frantically trying at the moment to get everything working. So we might jiggle things around a little bit. So I think we're probably going to go to either Gary or myself next. But if Gary said he was ready, we could start with Gary's presentation just a little bit early. So I think, yeah. So Gary's going to start, and then we can see if we can fit Ellie and Emily in after that. So Gary did a test earlier, and he's just going to use his camera. So again, the same as when Spencer was presenting, we suggest the presentation screen, that's with all of the agenda and the hashtag. We suggest that when Gary's camera is working, you hide the presentation. So there's a button in the top right. If you point in the top right, you'll see it. And Gary's camera is just loading up now.
Can you see me yet?
Not yet. It's getting there.
I can see me.
Okay. Oh, I can see you now. Definitely can.
Cool.
I'm going to turn my camera off.
Okay, good to go. Well, welcome to the latest instalment of Gary's Robots. I decided this month that I was going to do something a bit different because, well, it's Christmas, isn't it? So rather than carrying on with the big robot that I've been working on over the last few months, which some of you will no doubt have been following, I decided to make something new. And because I've been thinking for some time that I actually wanted to do some work on smaller robots, I thought this would be an ideal opportunity to do a Christmas decoration. So what I've produced is Robot Robin. So there are actually other robots out there. For example, there are toy robot birds. We might have seen some of them advertised on TV. There's things like the Little Live Pets Lil Birds that have been on TV recently. And other types of robot bird that you may have seen are things like the Archimedes the Owl, which is produced by Alex Glow. And what she's done is she's made a 3D printed bird, as this one is, but hers is based around the Google AI-Y, the Vision Kit, and the Voice Kit. It's quite a sophisticated product that she's made. Hers is quite a big bird. It's probably about the size of her head, and it sits on her shoulder. She calls it her familiar. It's a little bit limited in terms of the number of degrees of freedom, so it can tilt from side to side and back and forth, but it doesn't do much else. But it is a very engaging thing, and it is very sophisticated. However, it also requires quite a big harness so that it can actually sit on the shoulder. And the harness also is connected to an external power supply. What I wanted to do was to produce something which was going to be completely independent. So it's a standalone device. All the processing, all the power, everything is on board. It's rechargeable, and it's also upgradable. So just like my big robot, you can add more things to this in the future. It's also got 4 degrees of freedom, as you'll see in a minute. So it can move its head, its beak, its wings, and it can rock backwards and forwards. And also, unlike the bigger robot that Alex Glow produced, this one is an instant on. So you can switch it on, work straight away, where hers takes a couple of minutes to warm up whilst it boots up all the software that's required because it is so sophisticated. And I also wanted something which is quite small, because if this is going to be some kind of Christmas ornament, then I don't want it dominating the room in terms of its size. So, quick demo, I'll put it on and you can see it in action. Okay, so you get the idea. I'll just leave it to run for a minute or two. So how does it work? Well, basically it uses, in fact I'll switch it off because it's quite distracting. So it uses a small Arduino style processor. I've been looking at smaller and smaller processors. When I first started looking at this as a project, I was going to use my go-to favorite, which is the Arduino Nano, which I've used a few times in other projects. I've used bigger Arduinos as well on the big robot, depending on what the needs of the project are. I have also done projects with the microbit as well in the past, and I also considered using the Raspberry Pi Zero, but they're all actually too big for the bird, because if I actually show you the bird itself and then show you these processors alongside, they're quite large, and to get them on board the robot would be rather difficult. And I wanted something which was not going to be a giant robin. I wanted something which was more or less actual robin size. So I found this, which is the Arduino Zhao, and as you can see, it's a small processor. In fact, I'll just show you how big it is. compared with the Nano. So there's a Nano and there's the Xiao. So it's about half the size, maybe less actually than half size. And certainly compared with the Raspberry Pi Zero, it's tiny. But it's got all the power of a regular Arduino, so it's capable of driving all of the servo motors on the bird there, so there's 4 servos there, and it can also drive the MP3 player, which is on board as well. So, and there's spare capacity too. So if I want to add extra sensors, which I'll talk about in a minute, then it'll also take those. So it's a brilliant little thing. The only problem was that I found this, it was not 100% reliable, and it does have a tendency just to suddenly stop working. So we only end up with a bricked Xiao, as I actually did in this project when I was developing it. Then it meant I had to basically put that one to one side until I got time to actually unbrick it, and then put another one in its place. Fortunately, the second one I put in actually worked okay so far, so all was good with that, but it's not 100% reliable. So that's the processor. It also uses a 4 servo motors, normal standard 9-gram micro servos, which some of you will be familiar with. It's got a little micro MP3 player, which holds an SD card, which can hold, I don't know, 8, 16, 32 gig. So there's lots of potential for lots of Christmas songs on there. It's pretty much unlimited as far as this project is concerned. And as well as that, I've also got the onboard power, which is a rechargeable LiPo battery, and that one's actually designed to be used on a racing drone. So lots of power there, should keep the bird going for quite a long time. So that's basically what the thing's made up of, and how it works. The body, of course, all the parts, there's 13 3D printed components to that. So I designed and printed all those, put that together. What about the future? Well, obviously this thing is pretty much infinitely upgradable. The motions that you see on the moment are quite jerky. I deliberately did that because it's quite bird-like, but it's perfectly capable of doing smooth motion as well. You've got an infinite number of angles that it can move its various parts through, so it can take up a whole range of different postures. You can add some sensors to it. You may have noticed, if you saw close enough, the eye on there, that's actually a light dependent resistor embedded in the 3D print on both of those eyes. And on the prototype version of this, I had it so that as a person approaches the bird, because the light level changes as you move towards it, because you're either casting a shadow over it or you're blocking out some of the ambient light, it can sense the change in the light and then turn its head towards you. So it's as if it sees you coming without the need for a camera. So that actually works out quite good, quite a good way of doing it. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to get that up and running on the actual bird itself today, but I have tested it and that works fine. So that's pretty much it. As well as making those sorts of changes to it, I'm looking at the possibility of making a slightly bigger bird in the future, and then I can maybe incorporate something like the Pi Zero onto it, so that I can put some more sophisticated stuff in, maybe facial recognition, who knows. But there we go, that's the robot bird for you. Over to you, Alan.
That's fantastic, thank you. So when Gary said a few weeks ago what he was going to be presenting, I can tell you there was absolutely no way I'd imagined it was going to look like that. So at the start of this year, when Gary started joining our jams and he was bringing his walking, talking, rugby ball catching robot, now we have a bird. Are we going to see a cat next time? Are we going to see a dog? Is he replacing whole members of his family with automatons? Who knows where? I feel like this is the cliffhanger. Join us next month to find out what's going on in Gary's household. That is absolutely incredible. And I love how the fact that you decided you'd finished in your presentation, but the Robin hadn't. You wanted to carry on regardless.
Well, I wanted something that would have a bit of personality, and so there is a certain, with the program that's running on us at the moment, it's only a demo program, so it's pretty much running to a script, but there are random elements in there as well, so it doesn't repeat itself every time in terms of its movements and whatever. So it's got that degree of unpredictability that you have in an actual live creature. And there's plenty of scope for incorporating even more of that into it as well. So given time, I'll add more features to it. So perhaps when you see I've thought of a whole bunch of different ideas in terms of woodland birds and so on that I might work on with this. So as I create more, maybe over the next few months, I'll show them. Not next month, because I've got something else in mind for the big robot for next month, but you'll have to wait and see for that.
So I'm just thinking of what monthly themes we have. We could have bunnies for Easter.
Or Easter chicks, yeah. I'll just reprint it in yellow and we're good.
Right, amazing. So Gary will be joining us later on in our jam jar. That's the bit where we kind of everybody turn on their cameras and microphones and whatever if you're happy, and we can chat. And it may be that you want to ask Gary questions then.
Yeah, if you want to hear
the
whole repertoire of me whistling, because it goes on for quite a while, then
very good.
All that whistling, by the way, was coming from the bird, not from me, but it was me that obviously originated it.
Okay, thank you, Gary.
Okay.
Now, if you're looking at my camera and it's full screen, it's because what you need to do now is you need to click on that button in the very bottom right that says Restore Presentation, and then you can see the slide that we have that has our hashtag that we use, which is it's a bit of a play on where there's our jam. And you can see down the left-hand side all of the times that we had, starting with Jay, Spencer, and at 7:25 we were due to have Emily and Ellie. Now, I think I'm predicting we're going to have some technical problems if Emily and Ellie go to present now, because they're joining us via an iPad, and iPads use Safari as the default browser, and Safari doesn't play with this software that we use very well. You can listen to things if you're using Safari, we just can't speak. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out, so they may leave us and they may join us back in. Oh, I can hear Emily, I can hear you.
I think we're there.
We can hear you, yeah. So would you like to present? Would you like to do a screen share or use with a camera work? Oh, your camera is low. Oh, fantastic! We made it work. Oh, brilliant. So, are you presenting via the camera for the next 5 minutes or so? Fantastic. Yeah. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to suggest again that people hide the presentation. So, if you click on the little, everybody else, not you, click on the little thing to hide the presentation. That should make Ellie and Emily's camera go larger. And again, if you click on another button, it makes it go full screen. And I'm going to turn my camera off. Can I just make a little bit of intro? I was thinking, oh, how am I going to introduce them if they can't turn up? So I took part in an event last week that was online, and I saw this amazing project that I haven't seen before. And it was a little bit complex because it was send out the components to people. Then they should receive them in the post. Then they have to build something, which they then have to bring along. And then they have to do a bit. And I was like, what? It's the first one I've been to where you have like this online make-a-thon that everybody's making stuff together. So I'm going to shut up now, and Emily and Ellie are going to tell us about it.
So, hello. We squashed around a little iPad because we couldn't get it to work on our computer. So Emily's wearing her Christmas pajamas. My name is Ellie, and I teach computing. Well, teach teachers to teach computing. And Emily, well, you can say who you are.
I'm Emily.
How old are you?
11.
And how old were you when you first did this project?
10.
Okay, so this is perhaps a little going backwards a little bit compared to some of the other projects that you were looking at, but we are essentially going to make some flashing Christmas cards. And like Blue Peter, here's one we made earlier. Do you want to show it?
Get to join.
It's working, it's flashing. Just hold it up, look.
It's flying. So I don't know if you can see, but it is lighting up a bit.
Yeah, it's working, it's working.
So we're gonna make some light up Christmas cards. And you can do this like this, so you can incorporate the light like this, or you can do it with cellophane with a Christmas tree.
And then your light goes behind the cellophane, so it kind of lights up a window. And we call this project paper circuits. So you're making a circuit, but essentially you don't need any wires really. You don't need any soldering or breadboards or anything like that. So we use it with teachers to try and get children to start thinking about circuits in the classroom, and then we turned it into a project that now all of our friends get lighting up Christmas cards. So paper circuits, if you ever just Google paper circuits, you can see lots of different designs and lots of different layouts, and there's some beautiful projects that are made with them. And you can start getting quite clever and doing parallel circuits and things like that. But we're just going to start off with a basic one today. So are you going to tell everyone how to start off and what things they need?
Okay, so you probably want to start off with sketching your drawings out on the front of the card, and then planning out where you want your little LED light bulb to go. So then it's easier to do. And then you're going to sketch out on the back here where the actual paper circuit is. You're going to sketch out what that's going to look like before you put anything on it. And then you put some of this, it's tape, but it's like...
We've got aluminium tape, or we've got copper tape. But you can do it with foil, but what we found is if you start gluing foil down, it gets very messy, very sticky, and sometimes if you're doing this with little people, they use too much glue and it can actually stop the circuit from being conductive. So we use sticky backed copper tape or aluminium tape. The aluminium tape tends to be really wide, so we cut it down into thinner strips, but the copper tape's much thinner, so that's easier in a way.
And inside your circuit, you're also going to want to have a little watch battery.
Cell battery. Yeah. How can you test your light works before you build your circuit?
And the way you test if your light works is these two sticks here. One of them will be shorter and one of them will be longer. And the longer side is the positive side and the shorter side is the negative side. So if you put the longer side on the positive side and the shorter side on the negative side, it should light up. And that's how you can tell if everything works. So then you know if you've done the conductor right on your circuit, it should light up.
So once you've done your design, so here is a design that we've drawn. What we recommend is that you plan your card first and then work out where you want your light to go. Do that and then put your circuit on afterwards. Because if you put your circuit on first, then it's quite lumpy when you come to do your design. And also, if you want to change anything or move anything, it becomes a bit of a problem. So this one, because this is cellophane, our light can just all be taped on the inside. If it's a solid bit of card, then you actually want your LED to poke through. So you have to make a little hole in your design for it to poke through. There we go. So that's just the LEDs come through the hole there. There we go. So we've gone proper Blue Peter style, haven't we? We've got one at every stage today.
Yeah.
So once you've got your design, so where's our light going to go on our tree?
You also might need a bit of sellotape to stick the cell battery down and the LED legs down.
Yeah. So once we've got our design, we're going to plan our tape in the inside to make our circuit. And you need to have somewhere that's going to be a little switch. So on your card, if we look at our card here, you actually have to fold the corner down, which works as the switch to switch your card on, because you don't want it permanently on because your battery will go flat. So on your design, you need to choose a corner that's going to be your switch. So I think on this one, we'll have the bottom corner. There we go. So then if you just draw a circle where the battery's going to go. So she's going to do that. Oh, we're going to go. There we go. There we are. And then you just plan your tape from there to go round to your lights. And you can see lots of templates online, actually, very simple drawings of these circuits, which you have since learned don't use the proper symbols, do you? You went, these are wrong, they don't use the proper symbols, but you didn't question that, which was 10. So put your tape down, which we might not do live because we don't want to take all of your time. And then once you've done that, you tape the legs of your LED light onto your circuit. And then the last thing to do is to tape your battery down. But when you tape it, you need to make sure you only tape one side and not the side that's going to connect. So sometimes we have people who say ours isn't working, but it's because they need to peel their sellotape back a bit because they're not getting a proper connection. So if it doesn't work when you've built it, the first thing to check is sellotape on the battery. The next thing to check is too much glue on the foil or on the tape. And then the other thing to check is that you've got your negative and your positive the right way round. So sometimes you need to flip your battery back over if you've misunderstood which way you were going round. Have we remembered everything?
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. And you can buy lots of LED lights and batteries, dead cheap. You don't need expensive batteries because you only want it to last for a few switches on and off for Christmas. So you can send them to all your friends.
That's fantastic. One of the things that's particularly nice about that project, as you've just said, it either works or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, you then have to go through that sort of troubleshooting. Well, have we got a full circuit? Have we got the LED the right way around? Were we a little bit heavy-handed with the glue stick? And as you've both shown, it's one of those projects that lots of people can work on together, particularly when at the moment we can't necessarily be with all of our family. You know, it's one that we can, you know, as I thought it was a really lovely thing at that meeting where you posted them out to people. And it's just like another way of making connections, if excuse the pun. Have you experimented with diffusers where you try to change the effect of the light, like maybe tissue paper or something like that, just to...
Yeah, so we've done bits of that, and there are lots of projects online. So there are some really fancy ones where they've kind of built a box and then they've got lights with different sort of layers and uses of tissue and all sorts. So it's a really nice kind of creative way of starting to think about how the circuits work. And I think we've started to get fancy now to think about how we can incorporate perhaps a switch into our cards. So that's our next thing. So I think we're just going to build a solid circuit but put a switch in it somewhere. And then there's also some parallel circuits depending on your battery strength and the quality of your LEDs. We've found if you go more than 2, it's a bit dodgy, but some people have managed to do sort of 2 or 3 in a row, which looks really nice on the Christmas trees, or I've seen some snowmen where it looks really good on the buttons. So they've used parallel circuits, which takes even more planning of the circuit. So we probably wouldn't do that live on a webcam.
And you can have fun as well, can't you? Improvising different forms of switches. It's just whenever we talk about projects like these, particularly ones that use the button cell, it's worth just reminding, if your parents with small children, if you've got small children, you have to be really, really careful with those button cell batteries. If you just look at what is the dangers of button cell, but it's to do with how younger children like to put things in their mouth, and it's really, 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 really not a good idea. So if you're doing any projects like this that use the button cell batteries, just make sure you read all of the guidance. And if you were given one of these cards to a young child, try to do everything you can to make sure that that battery is sealed in a way that is not going to tempt the child to want to play with it. That's brilliant. And I'm so pleased we made all the technology work together in the end. And although you've been to our physical jams before, I think this is our first online jam you've joined.
It is, yeah.
So we made it work. So thank you so much for coming along.
It's a pleasure.
Now it's actually my turn to present next. So let me see if I can do this. I didn't rehearse this earlier, so I've got to make sure. So So what I'm going to do in a moment is I am going to share my screen, and I'm going to get a few things ready. So I'm going to talk. I've decided to try and shoehorn a couple of things in, and then we're going to have, after me, we're going to have Nadine. So I think Nadine, actually, we're probably going to be going back to like your original scheduled time. Now, if you wanted to see the schedule, you may have made your video large, and you'd have to click on the presenter thing in the bottom right hand corner, restore presentation, and you'd then be able to see the agenda. I'm going to now share my screen because I've got something on my screen I want to show you. Just a moment. Now, let's go back. April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. When we ran our first jam online back in April, I don't think we knew in any way that 10 months later we would still be running online jams. So it was very much, what can we put together really quickly? What can we try so that we can carry on? Because I think when we first did it, some of the others can back me up now, we were about a week or 10 days away from our jam, and we're like, no, we can't run that jam. So we've tried a few different things, and I think in 2021, we're going to be sticking with this format for quite a while, even if like, oh, the vaccine's out and I've had the vaccine, or I've not had the vaccine. We'll still be running this format of jam for a while. It seems to work as a good format. So we really need to know from you, our audience, and we've got some new audience members here tonight, what works for you and what doesn't. Now, there's a feedback form, and every month I say, oh, please fill in the feedback form. We've tried to make it easy for you to follow. Let me just show you. You could just very quickly type in your name, and obviously this is not my real name that you can see on the screen. You choose which event it is that you've registered for. So tonight you were at the Winter Wonderland. And then these are the bits that we're interested in. You didn't enjoy it, you thought it was really enjoyable, or you're undecided. Same thing with this one. At the moment, we may decide to use a different video platform in the moment. So if you've got one that you're really happy with, or if you're happy with any of them, then you choose that. Anything that was a highlight. So we've just heard from Emily and Ellie. If you thought that was the best presentation, you could put that on. If you thought there was other things, not just a particular individual presentation, but things in general, then put that on there. And anything that you think would make it improve, any suitable themes. Now, a lot of these questions that we put on there, they're optional. If they have a little star like that one there, then you have to answer them. It won't let you save it. And then you don't have to tell us your name. You could put Mickey Mouse in there. And at the end, you click submit. And when you do that, later on, in a few days or so, we'll review them. And not many people leave us any feedback, but occasionally somebody leaves us some really, really useful comments. Like some people sometimes have said quite negative things, but actually when we've read them on reflection, we think, do you know what, we can do something about that. So we've been able to take those comments on board. So please, I posted a link to it earlier on. I've tried to make it easier for everybody. exa.im rjam feedback. Now, there's another thing I was going to mention. I don't think I've got the tab open. We're always asking for anybody who would like to come and present at our jam. And I think some people think it has to be about Raspberry Pi, or it has to be some project. Like you have to have built a robot that looks like a bird, sounds like a bird, acts like a bird. No, not always. We're happy for, like that presentation just then from Emily and Ellie. That was perfect. That's exactly the kind of thing that we're looking for. So we have a form, and every month when you sign up, you'll see a link to this. Let me see, can I just find that very briefly to show you what it looks like? So it's our sign up form. If I copy the link, it's exa. This one's slightly different. It's exa. Oh, it's not that one. It's exa.is rjam sign up. Let me just, I'll type that in the chat. Forgive me if you've done this before, but we do tend to get lots of the same people, which is absolutely fine, signing up. But it's nice, as we've had tonight, we've had a few new presenters tonight. So exa.is rjam sign up. And then this is different. This asks, would you like to do a presentation? You can choose which jam. So our jam in January, I need to change the date now because it should say 11th of January. It's all about accessories and add-ons. And if you have a small board computer like a Raspberry Pi, a microbit, or an Arduino, maybe at some point you've decided to buy something to click onto it, to stick on top, an extension. So you can buy things called hats, expander boards. Some of them cost a lot of money, but some you can buy for like £1 or £2 or £3. And what we're asking you to do for our January jam, so it's going to be on the 11th of January, we just want people to come along. And it's really good if you've never presented before. We'll try and help you as much as we can. Just tell us about something that you bought, that you've seen. And if you've never tried any, well, in the Magpie magazine, which you can download all issues for free, there are reviews in there, and you could just read a review of one, and you could just say, well, I've read this review and I think I'm going to spend £10 on this thing and I'll come back in a few months. So we're just trying to find ways of trying to level the playing field so that we get lots and lots of different people presenting at our jams in the future. Now, I think I have 2 or 3 more minutes left before Nadine starts to present. Oh, and Michael's just written something in the comment section there. So please have a look in the comment section. Now, this is nothing to do with Raspberry Pis or microbits or whatever. It's something that's slightly out of my usual kind of things that I am interested in to talk about. And I'm going to keep this just for a moment. I'm just going to put this. Oh, I've copied the wrong thing. Hang on. See, people who do this every day make mistakes as well. Okay. And I can hear Scott's audio. So just waiting for, okay. Now, this is not a campaign. This is not a campaign to get you to sign up to Disney Plus. So if you're a child in a family that hasn't got Disney Plus, don't say Alan said you have to get Disney Plus. Okay. Somebody twisted my arm recently into getting Disney Plus. They may have a trial that's like for free for a few days or something like that. Now, there's a series that you may have heard of called The Mandalorian. And I'm not a massive Star Wars fan. That's not to say I don't like it. What I mean is I don't have walking C-3POs in my room and an R2-D2 shaving foam and all that kind of stuff. I don't mind watching them. But The Mandalorian, I've not watched any Star Wars for many years, and I've just really, really enjoyed watching it. People who've worked on it, people who've watched it have said it's like going back to the old Star Wars. They're trying out new technologies to make this film. Now, the point of my presentation, my talk, is not to say go and watch The Mandalorian. If you have seen The Mandalorian, maybe type something in the chat and say, yeah, I've seen it, or no, I've not seen it yet. That's not what I want to show you. There's a companion series called The Gallery. And what I've found is watching that is amazing. They talk all about how they're making it. So there's 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. There's one that's just being screened at the moment, and there's one from a year or so ago. And you might know that years ago when they were making science fiction movies, they had to try to find a way to create the future, what the future might look like. Now, there's one technique called chroma key, or you might have heard of it being called green screen. It's very, very popular and is used quite a lot. And you'll see it when weather presenters are presenting, they're pointing at a map. There's just a green screen or a blue screen behind them. For The Mandalorian, they've tried something very, very different. And we can check, we can play just a few moments, I think, of this, just to show you. Now, you're not going to hear the full sound or the audio. In fact, it may be silent because I'm not going to share the full video, but it'll just give me enough for me to show you something. So I will paste a link in a moment in the chat. But they've been using a technique that I'd never heard of before. And it's a combination of using a virtual game engine, and they don't have a green screen. They actually have these pixel perfect LED screens, and they have a whole room. It's like a hangar. It's 24 foot high, 75 foot across, and they can actually bring in spaceships and characters and all this, and they're filming them all in this. Now, it might sound just that might sound like, well, I'm sure people have done that before, but they're doing things with technology and they're using algorithms and programming and computer science in ways to try out new techniques that haven't been used ever before. And it means that instead of an actor standing in front of something that's green and trying to pretend or imagine, the actual scenery, as well as the walls, the ceiling as well. Anyway, I don't work in the film industry, as I'm sure you know already. And the people who do will do a much better job of explaining to me. To watch this video, I would suggest this particular one. I will paste the link in the chat. And if you watch this video, which is just 4 minutes long, I was going to share it earlier and then I changed my mind. If you get a chance to watch it, you'll see it exactly what it is. And they're saying this technique that they're using, they can see how all films in the future will start to change and be built around that. Okay, so if you get a chance later on, watch that. It doesn't matter whether you have or have not seen The Mandalorian, or if you never even watched Star Wars in your life, it's a 4 minutes YouTube video where they explain all about this new technique that they're using. And the particular, they call it the volume, which basically the highest quality LED screens all stitched together. It's not just that, it's the fact, as I was saying, the camera gives it has this parallax view encompassed within it. Now, Scott, would you like to mute yourself, or we could do it for you? But anyway, so Nadine, it's going to be you next. So what I need to do is I need to stop sharing my screen, and you were going to use a camera. So we'll just wait for Nadine to turn on her camera now. So I think Nadine is joining us this evening from Essex. And Nadine is one of those people that Andy has recruited from the South End Raspberry Jam community. You're on mute, Nadine, at the moment. Now you're unmuted. And again, I'm going to recommend to people that you click on that little blue button to hide the presentation. And then you click on the button to make Nadine go full screen. And then you should be able to see everything in its full glory.
So, hi, I'm Nadine, and yes, I am a member of the Essex DMETs, which Andy does one, who I think he's on here tonight. I think I saw him, not sure if he's still on here. But anyway, before I start the presentation, as you can see, I'm sitting right next to this Christmas tree, kind of battling for space here. So, I can make the lights flash, so if that will trigger you in any way, please just let me know. So, I won't do that. Yeah, so I want this to be as interactive as possible. So please do put in the chat if I'm boring you or anything like that. Or even if you want to actually see let me hand on a bit more on something. You want to see something a bit more for me to explain something. So yeah, these are my lights. I'm using the microbit. I've got one in the glove from the Mini-Me glove competition. And I've got one down there somewhere connected to the lights, or the NeoPixels powering them up. And the thing about this is that they're actually interactive. So if I push this up and press A and B, it should, hopefully, if it wants me to work today. Nope. I'll just turn it all on. Oh, there we go. As the microbit moves, the color changes. If you can still see that, oh, I've turned it off, okay.
So we can see some bright green lights at the moment.
Yeah, it worked a little bit. I'll turn it off and on again. Sometimes that happens.
It worked in rehearsal and the lights are off. Now they're different colors.
I think your connection's dodgy, so I'll spend a couple minutes.
Blue, green. Are these flashing Christmas tree lights? Because I could tell you they're on, they're off, they're on, they're off.
There we go. Yeah, it's working now, sorry. A couple of the wires were touching. So that was mucking things up a bit. But essentially, as I move the mic a bit and move my hand, different colours show up. So I've got this kind of purpley bluey colour on now. if you can see that.
We can see that.
But as I move, this one's kind of gone reddy, whitey. Can't see, kind of a pinky colour. Or if I change it, it can go this greeny colour. And as I move my hand around, I can choose different colours that I want it to light up. And I can set it by pressing A and B again. So if I wanted this blue colour, I set it to blue and I can just wave it around. See, it's fine. And if I'm gonna change colours again, decide I don't like it, I'm gonna go for maybe this yellowy colour. I can set it like that too. And that was the point that I was kind of at when I put it on Twitter. And the colour changing works based on the accelerometer and the compass. And at first I did it on the acceleration until I found a rotation block in make code, which means that it did it specifically on the angle it was tilted at instead of the speed. So it means that there's less flashes. And then blue is determined by the compass because the rotation is only done on 2 axes and only 3 for red, green, and blue. And so, yeah. But since last week, I think I put the video out, I've added new settings. So if I press A, it flicks to different colors. So I got this blue, yellow color one. Or this red and yellow color. And I've also kind of got different modes. So if I press B, it starts to flash. Well, not really flash, it's actually shifting. I'll show you that on the rainbow in a minute. And I can press B again and it will flash like that. And now it's gone back to normal. So I'll just show you the rainbow again. And this one, the shifting is very slow. So it takes a while for you to notice that anything's changed. But if you can follow this reddy color, pinky color up here, you can see how it's kind of shifting. Can you see that?
Yes, you can see it.
Cool. Sometimes it's really hard to notice because it takes a while because where it's so slow, the colors seem really similar. But something like the red, which is different from the colors next to it, it can stand out quite a bit. So yeah, that's my project. In the future, I'm hoping to convert it to MicroPython because I like to think I'm quite proficient in Python, but I don't really use CircuitPython so much. So I thought that'd be a good introduction. And then I was also thinking of doing it into JavaScript as an introduction into that as well. And as I've seen the cheerlights thing on Twitter recently, I would also like to introduce that when I switch it over to Python. So yeah.
That's fantastic. Are you able to tell us a little bit? The glove is a project that I've seen online. But you able to tell us a little bit about the tree, what's going on at the tree, and how you've managed to get the tree to respond, or the lights on the tree?
So the microbit has an accelerometer on it. I think it shows you on there. And my first instinct when I came up with this was to use the accelerometer, which I did still end up using. But at the first point, the only block I could find was the acceleration, which takes into account the speed and the direction, because it's a vector quantity. If any, get my physics in.
That's brilliant.
And it seemed perfect because it had 3 axes. So I could use the X one for the red, the Y one for the green, and the Z for the blue. But then I quickly found that it flashed such a lot. And because the colors kept on shifting really quickly. And as well was that it was really difficult to get blue to stand out. Maybe because the axis going up and down was hard to move. I don't know. It was awkward trying to choose things. And so I did a bit more looking around, trying to figure out how the accelerometer actually works. And then I stumbled upon the rotation. which I found was exactly what I wanted, because it was based just on the rotation. So it didn't matter how fast I went, it was based literally just on the angle it was at, which was really helpful. I mean, so it doesn't flash so much when I twist it. Of course, you're still going to get a bit of flashing where things go from 0 to 255 next to each other. And if anyone has any ideas of how to sort that out, that'd be really great.
That's brilliant. And what's the lights on the tree? What are they connected to?
They're connected to another microbit. I'll see if I can.
So it's
lift
one
it up.
microbit communicating with another microbit.
There you go.
Ah. So I thought you were going to move the camera and there'd be this PC plugged in, connected to the internet. No, you've actually got the two microbits connecting with each other.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I chose to do this, because I wanted to do something that I don't really have much experience with. And I wanted to experiment with the microbit, because I only got the second one this summer. So it's still something quite new for me to play around with.
That's fantastic. And with the tree, there may be a point, maybe, I don't know, maybe a month from now, where you might be putting the tree away in a box. What might happen to the project? Is there a way, have you thought of how it could last through January, February?
Well, as it's a strip and I haven't actually stuck anything down, I could actually stick it into a desk or like the door frame or something. Anything like that where I can stick it down, or even just put it back in the packaging, because you can still see the wheel. I kind of put it on the tree to make it easier to present.
I just wondered.
It's quite hard holding it up and doing the microbit at the same time.
Well, a bit of a confession time. A few weeks ago, I started doing some Tai Chi, learning how, and it's all about movement. And I was just thinking, maybe if I had a studio, I could do my Tai Chi. And as I'm doing the different moves in Tai Chi, the room changes color. But I probably have to turn the lights out, which is probably a good idea anyway when I'm doing Tai Chi, because you don't want to watch me trying to pretend to do whatever it is. Nadine, that is amazing, fantastic. And you said you're going to be hanging around in the jam jar session later on, so people can ask questions. That is brilliant. So next up this evening, we're running out of talks. Next, we've got Nick and Scott, who are not related. I think they have the same surname, but I think that's the only thing. And then we have Simon, will be our final talk on the Adventure Code. Now, Nick, you there?
Hello.
Now, yeah. So one of the things is you might find at the moment that my video occupies the full screen. And while Nick is getting ready, if I remind or suggest that what you do is allow the presentation larger, because Nick is going to share his screen. Is that right, Nick?
Yeah, I'll just let me just do this magic. I'll stop sharing my webcam and find the magic button
to take presenter. I can do that for you now if you want.
Yeah, if you could.
Okay, I'm going to do that for you now.
Lost control. Excellent.
And you should now have an extra button, and your camera is disappeared.
Share my screen. Share my Chrome tab. I'm just selecting my Chrome tab, just telling you what I'm doing. So what I've got is a slideshow. I'm going to share a slideshow. Can you all see the slideshow?
It's just getting ready to show it. Now, we lost your camera. Did you mean to switch that off?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So I'm going to turn my camera off now, and then you can start.
Okay, so the background to this is there was an art competition to provide light for the Christmas tree in Macclesfield Town Centre. And normally in Macclesfield Town Centre, there is a large Christmas tree with normal lights on it. And the public are encouraged to write messages on stars, which are then hung on the tree. But because of what's happening this year, we had to find a safer way of doing it. So we proposed something quite radical, which was to change the stars into Morse code. So the lights on the tree would twinkle in Morse code, and then the people could send in their messages. So we then had to work out how we were going to send in the messages. And this is where, if I just flick ahead, Let me just get to. So we had a brainstorming session. Can you see the whiteboard? And we had a brainstorming session as to what we could do and how we could do it. And then we decided that we were going to do Morse code for the lights with a telephone module. So this is the first test where I just used a Pomeroni blink to flash Morse code. And I was just proving that I could just get the algorithm working, take some text, turn it into Morse code, and flash one little module. Okay. So then we knew that we could do it. We put in the proposal for lights on a tree and a kiosk so people would know what to do. And we went through an iterative process of development where we changed one part each time. So the first time we got the algorithm working on just 8 little blink, and then we changed to use a different library, use the NeoPixel library from Adafruit, and then we bought some ordinary LEDs. So this is 50 LEDs. These are NeoPixels or WS 2811. So this is about as old as you get. The 2811, 2812 and 2813 all use the same protocol, which is that there is a single signal wire down the middle, the white one, then power and ground. And all of the lights, the instruction for all of the lights is sent down the same wire, and each light takes off its red, green, blue, or red, green, blue, white, depending upon the LEDs. You can also see the 2 extra power leads there. And for every bunch of 50, you have to put power in, and we'll see how that made it fun later. So we're just using ordinary Christmas lights. They're waterproof, but we had to make the plug waterproof. So we had a little look. So 50 was 300 grams. So we worked out that the 2000 that we were looking for would be about 1.2 kilograms. So we realized we'd need waterproof and strain connectors. So because the people installing the lights would need to be able to plug in a number of lights at a time, about 400. So they'd wrap the lights around the tree and then plug them in. We also, as part of the project, also took some solar lanterns, and these have been changed to flash out fixed Morse code messages. We had a trial where you can see there's a little phone Arduino, and it's taking a message, it's talking to the Pi, and then the Pi is controlling all the lights, and each individual light is flashing a different Morse code message. So we had to make sure that there was a way for all of the messages to repeat, each in their own loop. To know which light people had chosen or been given, we have this trail that goes up and down and then comes back to their light. So then they get the message that that's their light, and that's their light. It matches their phone number for the rest of Christmas. And then, of course, when that message is finished, all the other lights then come back on. So as you can see, the messages all come back on. So we also had sound. So we got hold of some waterproof speakers, a lovely IQ Audio Digi amp hat. This is quite expensive, but really high quality sound. And we made sure we had a nice Energini power strip so we could do remote turn on. And it was all waterproof. My daughter painted the speakers to make them look like logs. So they could be hidden under the tree, and people wouldn't want to go nick white speakers. We thought that hiding them as logs might make them a little bit less obvious. As I said, we had a brainstorming session where we had ideas about who could do what and what we should do. Another part of it is that we need instructions, and so we're 3D printing a mechanism for a book that will turn itself. I just love the sound of the 3D printer there. So the book goes into a display cabinet where we took a garden shed and put a bit of plastic in it. This is just an upright tool shed that you would normally stack your fork and your spade in. My friend fixed it. I used my son as well to make some power wires. So we made lots of separate power wires. And you can see here all of the bundles of LEDs, and they all had to be soldered to the power wires. So when you're soldering, you tin the wires, you connect them together, and then you have to heat shrink to stop them short circuiting. There's something absolutely lovely and satisfying about seeing heat shrink. We then had to take the lights to the tree, and professional installers got their cherry pickers and draped the lights around the tree. And this is the team with 3D printer, my son, the musician, our graphic designer, and our promoter, all celebrating the lights on the tree. We added some more lights, and this time camouflaged them with green tape. This is 400 lights, and we eventually put 2,000 on, and this is just the test rig. And you can see we're running the test rig off a tiny high zero up at the top, and this is just showing a yellow trace going round the trail, showing people where their light is. So what does it look like? This is it. And you can see the trail on the tree.
Just like on Nadine's, the colors that move around the tree. Yeah.
We have one simple animation of a trail leading to the person's light, so they know where their light is, and then it's that light matches their phone number for the rest of Christmas. And you can hear the music. The music was 4 minutes of Morse code themed variations. And there you can see we kind of went over the top. You can start with a little Christmas tree at home. If you go for 2,000 LEDs, NeoPixel LEDs, you could end up putting them on the town Christmas tree.
Wow. It at the start when you described it, I thought, oh, this doesn't sound massively complicated. And then as I saw the steps, I thought, oh my gosh, because if you're I don't mean this as any disrespect to Nadine, but if you're building something on your desk and you get it wrong, it's kind of that's bad. But if it's something that's going to be in a public space where you want it to work all the time, and there's a lot of responsibility that goes along with it. So I imagine it's been quite a stressful project as well.
Yeah, very much so. So just to explain the sent me grey. Some of the challenges with it are that for 2,000 LEDs, we're talking about they're 12-volt LEDs. They're not the 5-volt ones. You can buy both. The amount of power we need, they're only 0.3 watts per LED, but when you have 2000, it means you have 600 watts or 50 amps, and then you're starting to get into quite large cables. So we needed to really manage the cables. So there's thick cables going up the tree, they branch out, and then those white wires branch again to each of the bits of the string of lights. So there's a lot of power distribution.
You'll be joining us in the jam jar sessions, is that right? So we can,
yep,
we in there, our jammers can interrogate you to a very high degree to find out exactly how you managed to pull it off or make it work. So we have 2 more presentations to fit in before 8:30. Next, we're going to have Scott Young, and we said before it's just a coincidence that they have the same surname, Nick and Scott. And then we're going to wrap up with Simon on the Advent of Code. So Scott, are you ready there? You're not wearing a Darth Vader mask, are you?
No, there's no mask tonight, Alan.
Father Christmas hats. I'm waiting for your camera to. Oh, I can see you now. Okay.
Yeah, Well, my wife just said, "Oh, you've got the white beard," so thanks very much for that. But
okay.
no hat. I didn't think about that. We don't have it in the house.
Are you using the camera to present?
Yeah.
So
yes,
we again suggest to people you hide the presentation, click on that button in the top right to make Scott full screen.
So what I'm here to talk about tonight is a little artificial intelligence project. Now, artificial intelligence, obviously, right the way from when I've been growing up for however long that's been, you used to think of massive computers with massive processing power. But now, today, artificial intelligence, so this isn't what I'm going to be talking about, but this is a little Arduino board here called Arduino Sense. Now, this can run artificial intelligence projects, limited, admittedly, but little artificial intelligence projects. And if anyone's looking for a Christmas book to get, there's this book that's just come out called TinyML, and that'll tell you how to run machine learning activities on one of those tiny little boards. But what I'm here to talk about tonight is this thing. So this isn't new. This is the Google Voice Kit. This is an old version of it. The original of this was given away with the Magpie magazine a few years ago, and then they released it as a separate kit. And there's a new version of this kit now that has a Pi Zero W in it. But what it is, it's a little natural language generation and processing unit. And it has a Raspberry Pi in the middle of it, and it has a speaker and a couple of microphones. Now, the Raspberry Pi is obviously about £30, and the Google Kit on top of it is about £30 as well. And that gets you basically your own Google Assistant or your own Siri. But I'm kind of done with talking, so maybe we'll just pass it across. Whoa. There we go. Let's see if we can get this in shot. So this is the Google Kit that's built. Now, coming back to Nick's talk, unfortunately, there was no heat shrink or solder involved, which are 2 of my favorite things in the world. It all just sticks in. There's wires you can stick in. So, maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a simple 30-pound computer living in a cardboard box with 30 pounds of additional Google Kit. But I can process and generate natural language using Google's cloud services.
Okay, and could you tell us what you're here to do tonight?
Well, despite the amazing things I could be doing, much to my dismay, you're going to use me to tell those awful jokes that you get this time of year in Christmas crackers. Hope you're pleased with yourself.
Yeah, thanks. I'm pretty pleased with myself. This is what I spend my time doing. So let's get started. So what happened to the elf that ate too many Christmas decorations?
He got tonsillitis, ha 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 ha.
What has 2 humps and is at the North Pole?
A lost camel, ha ha ha, waka waka waka.
Can you tell me who delivers presents to cats?
Santa Claus, of course, he he he.
Could you tell me, how can we tell if Santa is real?
You can always feel his presence, ho 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 ho.
Oh, that's fantastic. Merry Christmas, computer. I said, Merry Christmas, computer. Merry Christmas, computer.
Merry Christmas, Scott, and Merry Christmas to all at the Preston Raspberry Jam.
And that's me. So that project was something I originally did with my code club a couple of years ago. And it's actually a fantastic thing to do with a code club. So in the run up to Christmas, when you're getting ready to do all kind of Christmassy stuff, this is something that we had, 10-year-olds learning how to do artificial intelligence on Google Unit. Fantastic for learning. The Python code that it uses is very simple. It's just simple if, then, else, if statements. And it's a fantastic thing to do, and the kids really loved it. So it's something that if you do run a code club yourself, or if you're a kid, it's a fantastic thing to get and a good thing to practice doing Python on. Okay, thanks.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Scott. I was going to say some of the jokes might need a bit of work on, but then I'm the last person who I think should be telling people about working on their jokes. This was the Google AIY kit that was originally packaged with the Magpie magazine. Is that right, or is this like a later version?
It's sort of it's basically the same as that version. It was a sort of slightly later. It was the thing that came after that, after it had been presented on the Magpie. But it's exactly the same as what was included in there. But there is a newer version now that's on a Pi Zero.
And it uses some of the same kind of protocols that I'm not going to mention the names of these products that people have in their homes, but one of them belongs, because when you start to mention them, they start to reply to people in the house. The ones that rhymes with noodles and Mexa and things like that. Yeah. Scott, brilliant. You always come along and show us some really fascinating, interesting projects. So we have one final presentation. Simon Walters is going to join us any moment. And Simon has got some convoluted scheme.
I'm here now. I'm not going to show my camera because I'm just going to try and show my desktop here. So there's no point in putting the camera on. So the best way is if everybody can look at the desktop and maximize it. Wrong button there. Can you make me presenter, please?
I'll do that now. You are now presenter.
Thank you. Right. Now, it's the first time in this pandemic that I've actually will be trying to share my window, because my main computer just crashes when I try it, but now I'm trying it on a laptop.
And it's doing those arrows, and we've got a tunneling effect going on, but we can see. Yep, we can see your chronal calibration. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yes, right. So basically, I'm just going to keep this short. The advent of code's been going for a number of years, I think since 2015. And as a guy, I think it's Eric Vastel. I should look at that before I came on. Anyway, he makes up this series of puzzles, 24 puzzles. The idea is he starts each year off on the 1st of December and just do one puzzle a day. But people don't actually do that, because to try and do 24 puzzles, I mean, some people are doing it, trying to do 21 puzzle a day for 24 days, but real life gets in the way and cause a problem. But it's what it is. They start off very simple, and even after 7 days, they're not that hard. As I'm up to day 6 at the moment this year. Anyway, I just wanted to show you. So there's the website. It's adventofcode.com. I've just got 2018 up here, day 1, so I don't put any spoilers in for the current year. So you can go back and do previous years if you want to try out and have a play. And there's always a little story behind them, and this one's about temporal anomalies, say Santa's elves, but they're just a little bit of backstory. At the end of the day, when you scroll down, you'll see that there's a puzzle to be solved. So there'll be some data that they supply you. In this case, it's frequency changes. So they're saying if you start off at frequency 0 and then you went +1, -2, +3, +1, what would you end up with? And you'd end up with 3. This one's quite a very simple starter in 2018. And they give you some examples, so you can test your program out on examples before you get the real data to work on. So they'll just give you very simple examples. +1 +1 +1 should get 3. +1 +1 -2 0. -1, -2, -3, -6. So the idea is you write your programs that works with the test cases, and then you go and get the data. And in this case, here's the data. So it's a whole load of numbers, and you know, when you start getting them and start scrolling down, you'll find it's quite a lot of numbers. Quite a lot. And then the idea is you'll take those numbers, and let's just see if I can do this quickly. A funny number at the end. Is it going to work? Yeah, right. Here we go. Selected all the numbers, copy all those, and then you've got to basically decide which language you're going to do the puzzles in. And this year I decided, I've tried them in Scratch to start with, and this year I decided I would do them in Snap. And Snap is like super Scratch. You look at it and it looks very similar, looks identical on a lot of the categories: move 10 steps, turn thingamajiggies. But you know, it's a much bigger beastie than Scratch. But you can do the very simple things here. So we'll make a variable, we'll call it input, spell that properly. And I'll drag the block. Oops. I'm trying to do this remotely with all the mouse inputs, so we're having a bit of the lag. Set input to, and let's just paste in our data. And if I click on that, well, right. As you can see, it sort of overwhelms the screen there on the monitor. So what the first thing you usually want to do is parse that data and convert it into something useful. So luckily, here we have a split. So let's just, I'm going to split this lot up by words, and let's just paste the data into it. Click that inside my input. Click on it now, and there you are. I've converted the data into a list of items. So that's usually the first thing you've got to do in these puzzles, is parse the data and get it into something you can use. So inside Snap here, I'm using lists. In Python, you'd probably use lists as well. And then the idea is, with this one, it's very simple. All you've got to do is sum up all the inputs and find out what the number is. So that would be an exercise I will leave to you. So basically, on the Advent of Code, part 1 will be very simple like that. And you will then get an answer. You'll paste that into the website here, and it'll tell you whether you got it right or wrong. And then it'll tell you what part 2 of the code is. And part 2 can be a little bit more challenging. Anyway, keeps you off the streets and gets your brain working, and you know, ideal for lockdown. So have a go, see what you think of it. Thank you very much.
It's a great little challenge. I've noticed, Simon, as I'm sure you have done, people sharing little bits of success on Twitter as they're doing it, not necessarily sharing the answers, but reminding people that they're all taking part in the Advent of Code.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Now, some people are very keen to get on, and as soon as the puzzle is unlocked for the day, you know, they're trying to complete it in the shortest possible time. So there's that element of it for the sort of top Advent of coders. But for people like me, I'm just using it to think, oh, how the heck can I do that? You know, and then as I believe today's puzzle requires recursion. Now, recursion has always been a real bit of a problem for me. So I'm going to have to dig in when I get round to I'm 1 day behind at the moment. I've completed day 6. I've not started on day 7. And, you know, that's going to test me. I've never gone on with recursion ever.
Do you have to know what recursion is to be able to use it?
Ha ha ha! Very good, very clever.
I got that from the Google joke system.
Yes, I can see somebody asking a thing about Snap. Yeah, Snap is the next layer on from Scratch. So once you think, oh, or if you want to challenge that with pupils or coding clubs, and you're thinking, well, you know, do I move on to Python? You can move on to Snap. It's got all manner of very powerful operators. But it lets, obviously, it's still got the advantage that it's block based. So I highly recommend having a look at it if you've never looked at it before.
Now, we're at that time of the evening where we're going to give you some choices about what happens next. So I'm fully aware that when some people come to our jam, they just want to present their talk, or they just want to hear a certain talk, and then they need to go off and do things like walk the dog and wash the cat and whatever it is. So if you've decided you're going to stay right till the very end and till this point, then thank you so much. We'll see you in January. Don't forget to leave us some feedback. But some people really look forward to the breakout rooms, which we call the jam jar,